الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعد أما بعد. So we've been talking about verbs and their types, and we know there are sound and unsound or defective verbs. Sound are those that do not have any defects. And what are the defects? Defects are harfi illa, any of the huruf, any of the letters of any of the defective or weak letters. Weak letters are alif, waw, ya, and there should be no hamza. There should be no duplicate of the same sahih letter. Other than these letters shouldn't be doubled in the verb. And obviously grammatically we talk about alif, waw, and ya at the end, and in sarf, in morphology, we deal with any defect anywhere, as I just mentioned. So you should be free from all of those. So based on that, you can divide them into different categories, 7 categories. Either they're completely devoid of all the defects, so they're free and sound and good. So this is called salim or sahih. And there is mu'tal, which has harf illa at any of the positions in sarf, and a hamza at any position, and likewise double letter, which would be at the end generally, because for double letter there are different rules. For mahmuz there are different rules. For mu'tal there is different rules, and we call them, for mu'talul fa, fa kalima, if that has a harf illa, waw or ya, it can't have alif, because alif is sakina, and in thulasi mujarrad, which is what we're dealing with here, hasn't got any sakin letter in the beginning. In fact, none of the Arabic words are sakina at the beginning, means they cannot start off with a sakin letter. There must be some activity. If you don't have that, then you add a hamzatul wasl to make it active. So you, like, to have the first letter as active. So that's the rule. So alif by default is sakin, so it cannot be at the fa position. So waw and ya can be. So wa'ada, yatima, for example. Mu'talul fa is called mithal, and you could remember that by M-A-N. That's the mnemonic. So M, mithal, A, ajwaf, and N, naqis. So fa, ain, lam kalima. In those positions, if you have waw or ya. You can't have alif, because alif is sakina. Alif, whenever it's found, it is not there as original alif. It is being changed from waw or ya. Because in thulasi mujarrad, all 3 positions are active. You have fataha, sami'a, daraba, nasara, karuma, and hasiba. So all have 3 root letters which are active. So you can't have any of alif in any position, because alif is by default a sakin letter, which hasn't got fatha, dhamma, or kasra. If it has, it would become hamza. So that would be mahmuz, which you could see down there in mahmuzul fa, mahmuzul ain, mahmuzul lam. And if you have 2 harf illa within the word, could be either together or with the gap in between, and they're called lafif. Lafif and mafruq, when there's a gap, means wa and ya at the end, or ya or wa, whichever combination, could be wa, ya, whatever, as long as there is a gap, there's a sahih letter in between. It's called lafif mafruq, or lafif maqroon when they're 2 together. Qawiya, for example, waw and ya together. And muda'af, when you have same letter twice, wadda and massa. So sahih, astu, mithal, hastu, muda'af, lafifu, naqisu, mahmuzu, ajwaf. These are the 7 categories. So what would happen? Obviously they are defective, so you do not want, as Arabs would not want to keep them like this. They try to apply certain rules to simplify it, to make it easy to pronounce. So it becomes easy upon the Arabic speaking people to pronounce these letters. Okay, so whenever they find any difficulty, they would just make some changes. So there are mainly three types of change. They do either takhfif, which happens in hamza, idgham, which happens in muda'af, and ta'lil, which happens in harful illa. We'll cover that in detail several weeks, so don't worry about that. What is takhfif? Takhfif means to make something easy, simplify, lighter. Takhfif means to make it khafif, light, not thaqil, not heavy. So heaviness is being taken away. So whenever there are hamzas, hamza are throat letters, and hamza is a throat letter, and it is pronounced with a jerk if it's sakina. So that is heavy. Arabs do not like it. They want make it smooth. So is better than So whenever there's Hamza, they would just apply the rule. And the two ways to simplify it to make it easy. Either you change that sakin Hamza into the harf illa, alif, waw, and ya, depending on the sign on the first Hamza. For example, if you have amana, you make it amana. So amana is easy than amana, which is a jerky sound from the throat. So amana, you can change it into amana. So that's one where you changing the second Hamza or one Hamza into another one. Or you just delete it. Rather than keeping it, you just say delete it. The two Hamzas together, for khud, you just delete both of those, and call it khud, take. Khud becomes khud, kul becomes kul. So they either delete those Hamzas or they change them, the other Hamza, into corresponding letter, which is alif, waw, and ya, corresponding weak letter, alif, waw, and ya, harf illa, to make it easy to pronounce. So rule number one, whenever there are two Hamzas together in the word, in any word, the first one would always be active and the second one is sakina. First one being active, second one is non-active, means it hasn't got fatha, dhamma, kasra, rather it is connected with the first one. Then the second must be changed. Second Hamza must be changed according to the haraka on the first one, because fatha goes with alif, kasra goes with ya, and dhamma goes with wow. So this is what they would do. They say a'mana. So second Hamza, this first is Hamza as well and second one is Hamza as well. Two Hamzas together. First one has fatha, second one is sakina. So you have to change, you must change this Hamza into alif, because fatha on the first one dictates that it must be alif. Amana. Amana becomes amana. Amana ar-rasulu bima unzila, as appears in the Quran. And if it was wow, so u'minu, I believe. So u'minu, so u'minu, dhamma dictates that this Hamza, second one, which is sakina, should be changed into wow. So u'minu. And third one is i'man. So you do not say iman, you say iman. Change that Hamza into ya because of the kasra on the first one. So iman. So this is a must. You have to do it. You have to do it. You have no choice here. You can't say, I would just say iman. I prefer calling it a'mana. No, you have to say amana, umina, iman, provided they're both Hamzas. So that's the first rule, which was compulsory. The second one is optional. Optional is where you have second Hamza again sakina, but the first one is not Hamza. First letter is other than Hamza. So then up to you. You can change it according to the haraka on the first letter, the second Hamza, into alif, waw, and ya, as you did the first time, but that's optional. That's not must. So ya muru. So here, the second Hamza is sakina, as was in the first case, but the first letter is not Hamza. It's not a'mana or a'muru. It's rather ya'muru. So first Hamza is not Hamza. First letter is not Hamza. It's actually another letter other than Hamza. So the next letter, you can change it into ya'muru, or you can leave it as ya'muru. They're both fine. So that's optional. That's your choice. You can keep it like ya'muru or ya'muru. Another one, yu'minu. So you can keep it as yu'minu or yu'minu. That's up to you. You can make it easy by changing the second Hamza into the harf illat corresponding to the haraka on the first one. First one, ya, has dhamma, which goes with wow. So you can change yu'minu into yu'minu. Mu'min or mu'min. Yu'minun, mu'min, both are fine. You're allowed. Likewise, mi'zana. So mi'zana, you can say mi'zana or mi'zana with the jerk of Hamza or without that, because they're not two Hamzas together. The first one is not Hamza, second one is Hamza sakina. So in this case, you have an option. So in the first one, you do not have an option. You have to change the second Hamza, which is sakina, according to the haraka on the first hamza, fatha goes with alif, dhamma goes with waw, kasra goes with ya. So a'mana, u'mina, u'minu, or i'man, this is how it should be. But here you have an option, because the first one is not hamza. There are not two hamzas together. First one is not hamza other than hamza, and second one is hamza, and you can change it according to the first rule, or you can keep it. That's optional. That's your choice. So that's the task. So that's the idea. So keep that in mind. We'll be revising that several times and it will become easy. Okay. Then comes the rule of idgham. So what is the rule of idgham? Idgham means to merge one into other. Merge one into other. So what happened? You have got this mad-dun. So you've got fa'lun scale, mad-dun. So mad-dun. So look at that. First dal is sakina, second dal is mutaharrik with tanween. So mad-dun. So it would dictate that you have to merge them together. Okay, so the first dal is sakina, second one is mutaharrik. You have to write like this. You only can say maddun, mad. You don't write it separately. You write it like with a shad, with a tajdeed. Okay, that small W sign, that sign there is called tajdeed or shad. Yeah, and that means that there are two letters. First dal is sakina, second one is active. Wherever you find a shad or tajdeed, there are two letters. First one is sakina, second one is mutaharrik. First one hasn't got fatha dhamma kasra, second one has got fatha dhamma kasra. Remember that. That's the key. That's extremely important rule. And another rule there is, if they both are active, then what? In the first case, the first one was sakina, second was mutaharrik. You merge it into shad. So what do? You still do the same. So madada. This one is madada. So so you still combine them together. You still have to merge, and whenever there's a shad with the merging, the first one is sakina. So you don't say madada, you rather say madda, madda. Okay, so to prolong madda. Okay, madda. But the problem is with certain words which are used both ways and has been in vogue in Arabic language. They've been used quite a lot. So one of them is this word called sabab. Sabab. Sababun. The first ba is sakina, is mutaharrik, and second ba is mutaharrik. So it's rule number 2. So both are active. So what do? It should ideally be sabbun with a shad. But here you do not do that. Why can't you do that? Because sabbun on its own, sabbun is another word in Arabic, which means to scold, to tell off, to swear. So sabbun is already there. That's why for sabab, they say you cannot change this ba and can't merge it into another ba to make it sabbun. Otherwise, it would be sabbun. That's another word already there. So that's why I say you have to keep sabab as sabab. So you cannot do idgham here. So this is exception to the rule. And there's one more exception, and a couple more, not a lot of exceptions, but these are a few exceptions. Similar, madad. Madad to mean help. So that's help. Obviously, madad on its own is a word, and mad means to prolong, to elongate, to stretch, to lengthen something. So if you keep that maddun, it should be maddun, merge them together, then it would be confused with maddun. So how do we distinguish? So they say in these two examples and few other similar examples, you are not allowed to do the idgham. So do not apply second rule of idgham, which is when you have two letters of the same kind and both are mutaharrik, you still merge them, with the first being sakin and second being mutaharrik. They say you can't do that in this particular instance due to the exception, and which is what? That they have got already a word which is going to confuse if you merge the first one. So sabab, if you make it sabbun as the rule dictates, then sabbun is already there. Madad, if you make it maddun, maddun is already there. So they will be confusing. So that's why they do not allow that here. That's exception is generally a rule, and you get plenty of exceptions anyway. So this is an exception, and we keep it like that. All the rest are you know, all the rest instances are where you would apply this rule. Okay. And also rubai are rubai letter. Another exception is rubai letter. Rubai are 4 letters. They, you know, 4 letters. If there are 2 letters of the same kind, you do not apply the rule. That was only for thulathi. So jalbaba, you jalbibu. So you do not change jalbaba into jalabba. You do not do that. This is exception. You do not make them merge together. Okay, muda'af. So when you have 2 letters, you do not do that. Another rule of idgham. Now, if you have a word, for example, yansuru, on the scale of yansuru, you have this yamdudu. What do we do? Yamdudu, mudari of madda. Yamdudu. So you are stuck there. Yamdudu. Now, you want to merge them together, which you have done here. So yamdudu gets merged here. How would you do that? You can't do. So what they say, you have to make this one sakina and put them together with a shad. The only way you could do is by putting that dhamma onto the letter before that dal. Because you cannot have mim as sakina and dal as sakina. Did you get that? Let me write it down here again manually, so you know what I'm trying to say. If we were to apply the rule here, we would say yam and dal is sakina. You know, if you keep that like this, how would you pronounce yam mim sakina, dal is sakina? Why dal is sakina? You remember, anything under that shad, anything under this tajdeed, when you combine together, first one is sakina. So first dal is sakina, second dal is active. So yam and then first dal, mim and dal both are sakin. So you have no choice but to give the dhamma of dal, which was here. You could see that dhamma of dal to mim. So you give that dhamma of dal to mim. And through this, you can actually make it easy. And then you can, so that's the rule. So rather than saying yam dudu, you say yamud du, and then do the idgham thing. So yamud du, and make that into idgham with the shad and dhamma. So yamdudu becomes yamuddu. Yansuru, yanus. Obviously, you can't do that there. Yansuru is yansuru, but you have just changed the harakat of dal was given to mim, mim was given to dal. Means you have to do that change. This is the rule of idgham. Yansuru on that scale, yamdudu, but you can't have yamdudu, you have to have yamuddu, and then you merge them together. Okay, leave that there. It's a bit, you know, tricky, but we'll get there. We get there. Okay. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.